Pat Wagner, 110 Fisher's Point. I'd like to talk about garbage. Not a nice subject, not a complaint, but a concern. I don't think that there has been a big pickup day go by since the new company started that it's actually been picked up anywhere between 1 to 7 days late. And my concern is I realize that your hands are somewhat tied in that the government insists that you take the lowest bidder. However, when the lowest bidder becomes incompetent, when is that determined? And so other things can be done. I mean, you put out leaf pickup, you put it out, it's there for 5 days, the bags get all wet, ripped, and then everything's just all over the road, and they have nothing to pick up, and they're quite happy about that, probably. It saves them. I know the excuses are we didn't have enough personnel, the trucks broke down, heard all of these problems. But I really think something needs to be looked into as how to fix this, because when you have a calendar that says something is going to happen, it will be nice to see if it happened. And I think it's really quite desperate in town. You have visitors coming to look at your town, and you have furniture and mattresses and everything all over the road. It looks terrible here. And so it's not a good reflection of our town. And so I don't know who's responsible for garbage and for setting up contracts, but the person that has the contract now is not doing a good job and probably needs to be spoken to. Thank you.
Well, we speak to them very often. I mean, we have our concerns with it. I mean, it's all, the information is always passed on to Public Works. They picked up in some sectors the garbage and the regular garbage and the big pickup. But we'll check it out. It was noted, Pam. I try to go by last name, right? Yeah, sorry. And so consequently, we will see what we can do more. But I think the big garbage, the truck is a different truck that came around and picked it up. And I don't know if it broke down or whatever, but all of a sudden I noticed in my development was done. It's not because I live there, they don't know it. But it's the other development wasn't done on Pine Street, and that the next day, and I was surprised. And then I was going to inquire, and I forgot, but we will. It was noted by Gilbert, and we'll inquire. Could be that truck.
Incapable of doing it on one day, then put on the calendar. This area is this day, this area is this day, and this area.
Yeah, well, it is marked, but it doesn't.
But it says it's all.
I know, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, we'll. It's well noted, and.
Good evening. And just to follow up on what this lady said, I can recall several instances when the town, while explaining the allocation of a bid, had said, we had several bids, we did not take the cheapest one for X, Y reason, because we were getting more for our buck on this slightly more expensive bid. So could you explain to us the nuances? Because clearly, obviously, we're not obligated all the time to take the cheapest bid by the government, because it would not be workable for anybody.
Well, there's criteria to follow. When it's close to 280,000 over 3 years, that's a different story. If they're on the blacklist of the government or whatever, there's criteria to be followed. In this case, the bid was such a big difference, we had no choice but to accept it. Second, when we accept a bid that is maybe a little, we're dealing with $1,000 because somebody locally, example, Townsville Toyota for the first responders, was $1,000 difference from somebody in Saint Jean or Chambly. That's a different story because it's close to locally, and that's how it proceeds. And I'm looking at Owen Falcaro because I'm going to let or Gilbert out.
like usual, all that the mayor said is okay.
Correct.
Well, I hope so.
The criteria are easy, over 120 some odd dollars. It's a public tender. When it's public tender, there's an obligation to have the lowest bidder. Under 120 something thousand dollars, it's getting, so it's consent with the supplier. You can choose whoever you want, even if it's the highest bidder or the lowest bidder. So over $120,000, you cannot choose.
All right.
Yeah.
And did the town have an opportunity to examine the track record of this firm in other municipalities before they were selected?
Not at all. No.
So you mean you weren't?
First of all, Ricova, when they bid, and we've talked about Ricova for a long time, and they're finishing this year, okay? So, but they're going to come back, okay? Because there's only two bidders in the sector. There's Matrec and Ricova, and Matrec, if you don't remember, we remember, was not that good also. So it's Ricova or Matrec. They're both not really perfect, and but you know, when the Ricova bid, we didn't expect at all that they were in Montreal, and they decided to develop the Eastern Township. So we were all surprised, and like everybody else, we Googled Ricova and we saw that it was not perfect, but they're not on the black list. So yes, they're like the lady just said, that it's not perfect, but it's not as bad as we think also compared to what Matrec offered as a service.
But they were actually blacklisted by some municipalities in
Yes.
Montreal.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah. So when you say they're not on a blacklist, what?
They're not on our blacklist. It's criteria. Maybe Owen could explain that, but
The Autorité des marchés financiers has an official blacklist. That's not the official name, but that's what we'll call it. And those companies that are on that list cannot bid for public contracts.
Right.
So our scope is to look and say, is this bidder on the blacklist? No. Is their bid conforming with the criteria of the bid? Yes or no? If it is, we have no legal basis to refuse their bid, and if it's the lowest bidder, to give them the contract. Just because you read something in the newspaper about how they're not good in another town, we can't pick and choose like that. The very purpose of a tender process is to stop towns from showing favoritism to certain companies versus others.
Understood. Thank you for the clarification.
Mesdames, Messieurs, bonsoir. Messieurs les fonctionnaires, bonsoir. Pour ceux qui ne me connaissent pas, mon nom est Dominique Ney, je suis le promoteur des boisés d'Inverness. Alors, la rue Saint-Andrew, la rue Papineau, les terrasses des boisés. Le métier de promoteur n'est pas un métier bien facile, on est confronté à de l'opposition, de la mauvaise foi, beaucoup de choses. En règle générale, je règle mes petits problèmes avec M. Gibert-Harel, qui a toujours l'intelligence de trouver la solution, d'arrondir les angles qui sont souvent vifs pour peu de choses. Et là, je suis confronté à un petit problème, et quand j'ai appelé M. Harel, il m'a expliqué qu'il ne pouvait rien pour moi parce que c'était devenu un problème politique. Politique parce que ça avait été exprimé devant le Conseil municipal et que vous avez pris la décision, une décision embêtante pour moi, à savoir sur la rue Saint-Andrew, vous devez municipaliser la rue, un contrat qui a été signé depuis 2017, nous sommes en 2024. Alors, je vais vous épargner toutes les étapes. Pourquoi en 2024 c'est toujours pas fait, mais entre la Covid, des délais administratifs très longs, parfois de la mauvaise foi, aussi bien de ma part que de vos fonctionnaires, et vous étiez sur le point de signer cet accord que vous avez exigé, puisque vous ne voulez plus de rue privée dans cette ville. Et à l'époque, le projet était prévu avec une rue privée et nous devions nous charger de l'entretien et des infrastructures. À votre demande, nous avons passé un contrat que nous avons respecté à la lettre, qui a été approuvé par le ministère de l'Environnement, par vos services, les services d'ingénieurs, à la fois les miens et les vôtres. Nous avons eu un petit incident d'égout il y a 4 semaines, 5 semaines, non, 1er avril, pardon, où un bouchon de gras a bouché l'égout. Les citoyens sont venus se plaindre devant vous, okay, comme souvent ça arrive, et vous avez décidé de bloquer ce projet, à savoir vous ne délivrez plus de permis de construire. Alors je trouve que c'est une décision un peu forte, d'autant plus que je n'en ai pas été informé. J'étais absent, j'étais en Europe, j'ai découvert tout ça en rentrant. Alors je vais vous demander 3 choses, et j'ai 3 questions pour vous. La première, je vais vous demander de revenir sur cette décision qui est basée sur aucun aspect technique. La deuxième, je vais vous demander à vos services administratifs de cesser de communiquer de façon malveillante à mon égard, puisqu'aujourd'hui, des terrains sont vendus, les gens ont acheté des terrains, ce n'est même pas moi qui les ai vendus, je les ai vendus il y a fort longtemps, et ce sont des reventes, et quand les permis de construire se demandaient, les services administratifs font la réponse suivante. Nous ne délivrons pas de permis de construire, ou en tout cas, nous vous en délivrons un, conditionnel au fait que le promoteur fasse les changements demandés. On ne m'a demandé aucun changement à ce jour. En discutant avec M. Harel, j'ai accepté qu'il y ait des surveillances qui soient faites pour voir si tout fonctionnait bien. Ça fait plus d'1 mois. Et j'ai essayé de communiquer pour voir où on en était. On me fait savoir que la compagnie qui a été mandatée n'a pas les pièces pour tout ça, etc. Je veux bien être patient, mais depuis 2017 ou 2018, j'ai été très patient. Okay. Alors, merci s'il vous plaît de réfléchir au fait de cette décision que vous avez prise de façon unilatérale, basée sur aucun aspect technique, et surtout de cesser de communiquer parce que vous nuisez à mon image, vous nuisez à mes affaires, alors que j'ai respecté toutes les règles, absolument toutes, à la virgule près. Voilà. Je n'ai pas d'autres questions. Si vous en avez, je suis là.
Bien sûrement, je n'ai pas aucune réponse à vous donner ce soir. Tout est noté, déjeuner, puis on verra la suite des choses. Je suis très conscient de votre dossier. Vous avez parlé souvent avec M. Allel.
Oui, avec qui l'entente est parfaite.
Avec l'ingénieur de la ville, puis l'équipe technique aux travaux publics aussi. Alors, on va regarder vos questions, puis on devrait vous répondre, on va l'avoir suivi avec ça.
D'accord. J'ai accepté qu'il y ait une surveillance, voir si ça fonctionnait bien, à condition que ça ne se prenne pas 6 mois. Okay? Parce que les délais sont parfois très longs. Donc, s'il vous plaît, il y a des gens qui ont investi beaucoup d'argent, qui attendent, et aujourd'hui, on commence à se retourner contre moi en trouvant que j'ai été malhonnête. Donc, merci de régler ça. Oui. Je vous remercie.
Merci à vous. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Sinon, on procède avec l'ordre du jour. Oui.
Bonsoir. Juste pour brièvement vous parler de notre dernière rencontre, la première pour la sécurité sur des bourgeons qui n'en a pas eu encore. On a demandé de faire mettre un stop. Il n'y a rien qui a été fait. J'ai eu la visite de l'assistant M. Harel avec l'ingénieur qui ont regardé également les fameux fossés, les ditches. Ils ont dit c'est terrible. Effectivement, c'est terrible. Il y a juste un auto avant-hier soir qui est rentré en avant de chez moi. Mais ma question est, les herbes poussent soit chez nous ou autour. Pourquoi la ville n'envoie pas quelqu'un avec un whippersnapper pour que ça soit plus beau pour attirer plus de monde? En plus de ça, j'ai parlé avec Clément Robert qui m'a envoyé chez le bonhomme. Il m'a dit, écoute, il dit, parle-en au gouvernement. J'ai dit, lequel? Il dit, parle-en à la municipalité. C'est eux autres qui ont dit de rien faire. Ou de faire ce que lui a fait. Et je trouve ça pas mal sur les côtés. La dernière chose, j'ai pris mon hélicoptère et je suis allé faire un tour en haut. Et voir où qu'il y aurait un sentier pour aller au Parc des Lions, dans le coin des Bourgeons. Je me suis fait dire par l'assistant M. Harel, oh non, il faut qu'on ait la permission des gens qui sont sur la rue.
Chemin centre.
Oui, exactement. Mais des Bourgeons, on ne travaille pas, on ne traverse pas le chemin centre. On traverse pas chez...
Non, mais le terrain, que faut que le sentier soit fait sûr, ça fait une partie de ce terrain-là. Il ne reste pas sur le chemin centre, il est propriétaire de ce terrain-là. C'est un gros lot vacant qui enveloppé en arrière le parc des Lions. C'est à cause de ça, ça prend la permission de cette monsieur-là.
Mais ça ne passe pas par le chemin centre.
Non, mais le terrain, ça commence sur le chemin centre.
Puis il rentre à l'intérieur.
Exactement ça. C'est un grand terrain de 75 acres ou 90 acres. C'est un gros terrain.
Si on a 10 à vendre, je vais les acheter.
Ouais, non, mais je vois c'est difficile. Excusez-moi. Alors, pour vos autres questions, c'est le service technique avec les travaux publics, puis avec Robert Daniel qui est allé voir. Puis, on va donner encore la suite des choses. Pour le stock, c'est le comité de circulation qui va garder ça. Normalement, si les chemins sont propriétaires de la ville, que maintenant ils ne sont pas, alors oui, il faut mettre un stock, mais quand même, pour la sécurité, c'est le comité de circulation que Patrick Aubard est géré comme conseiller. Alors, je laisse toujours le comité de circulation décider.
Oui, mais
Oui.
On va le regarder dans le mois qui vient. On n'a pas déterminé la date de la rencontre. Il y a un policier qui a été voir la présence royale.
Exact.
Il y a un petit rapport. Alors, on va regarder ces éléments-là. Personnellement, j'ai été aussi. Et quand on fait le tour du rond-point, on va voir si ça est pertinent. Il y a pas trop. On voit assez bien les gens arriver, mais on va en parler en comité et on va probablement parler avec les voisins du district pour voir s'ils sont tous d'accord.
C'est toujours pour la sécurité. S'il y a deux chemins qui rencontrent, si c'est une one-way, il n'y a aucun problème. C'est un deux voies dans les deux sens. Alors, il peut y avoir quelque chose, un accident, un jour. Mais je laisse toujours la décision au comité de circulation.
Mais pour mettre la sécurité, je pense pas que ça prenne des mois pour mettre 2-3 affiches de vitesse ou un stop. Je l'ai vu, la police aussi, je l'ai encore vu il y a une couple de jours. Il vient de voir, il dit, bon, comment ça va? Bon, ça va bien dans le jour. Le matin, le monde passe en fou. Même j'ai quelqu'un qui peut le prouver ici. Et le soir aussi. Donc...
oui, on va garder ça, comme j'ai déjà expliqué à M. Lafrance, Robert Lafrance. On va garder ça, puis mettre des circulations qui va prendre une décision.
OK, la dernière chose, est-ce que vous êtes au courant que quelqu'un est venu sur la rue des Bourgeons, un homme et une femme, se disant du gouvernement, ils ont rentré dans une maison, ils ont dit on travaille pour le gouvernement, il faut qu'on voit certains documents. Ils les ont laissés rentrer, sont partis avec des documents. Ils ont fait 2 maisons comme ça mercredi dernier.
Est-ce que c'est 2 étudiants?
Non, Non, c'est 2 personnes adultes.
OK. J'ai aucune idée.
Non.
Parce que nous, on avait pour la conservation Lac-Brome, il y a juste des étudiants qui vont pour les gouttières dans les maisons, puis ils checkent ça alentour des maisons. Non, pas dans les maisons, alentour des maisons.
Ouais.
Puis, mais ils toujours cogné la porte, ils étaient dans mon développement, c'est ça qu'ils ont fait. Puis c'est une chose, que c'est une affaire pour la conservation Lac-Brome, mais c'est 2 étudiants.
Ouais. Non,
Alors,
cette fois-ci, c'est pas des étudiants.
OK, j'ai aucune idée.
Ils ont même rentré dans les maisons, là, puis ils ont pris des documents, des rapports d'impôts, des livres de banque.
Ben, je laisse pas des gens entrer dans ma maison sans savoir.
Mais
Ça, c'est
ce
sûr.
qui arrive, la maison où ils sont allés, le monsieur qui demeure là, est rentré à l'hôpital une journée avant en ambulance. Ça fait que là, quand ils sont venus, ils ont pensé que ça venait de l'hôpital.
Oui, ben oui.
De manière ou d'une autre, j'avertis le policier, j'ai son numéro personnel, etc. Puis il passe plus.
OK, j'en ai une autre qui attend pour une question avant que ça termine, M. Labrosse, la madame, là.
Parfait.
Merci.
Good evening, everybody. It's my first time here, and I'm actually very proud to be a resident here in Knowlton. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. In the interest of time, because I think, it's running a little bit behind, the issue is a personal one that I've experienced. Excuse me?
Can you tell us your name for the...
Oh, yes, of course. My name is Sofia Chervenkov. I live at 55 Roberge. It's my second home, and it's been there for at least 15 years as my second home. I enjoy the community very much, and I appreciate that in September of 2021, as you all know, there was the municipality of Knowlton undertook the infrastructure changes that were going on in the city. And unfortunately, I was, I would say, a victim of a problem that arose. My property at 55 Roberge suffered extensive water damage due to directly, as documented by the master plumber that did the investigations, I had water damage on 2 separate occasions, approximately a year after the infrastructures had been started in that property area. So there's property damage and 2 floodings that occurred. They have been repaired, but my question to the council, and respectfully to you, the mayor, and I believe my file has been transferred to Mr. Folcaro.
That is correct.
Yes, all right. So my question to you is that it was shown that the contractor in question, who is presently still engaged, as far as I'm aware, by the city of Knowlton, proceeded carelessly or, obviously it wasn't intentionally, but my French drains were cut around the property. And this is well documented by photographs and the report from the master plumber. So my question to the committee and to yourself, Mayor, and to Mr. Folcaro is, has the contractor in question been advised that it is due to his irresponsibility, and it is now his responsibility to correct the damage that's been done to my property? That is my first question. And has he acknowledged that it was in fact his fault, because it's well documented? Because I would hate to think that any repairs done would be at the cost of the taxpayers of Knowlton. This must fall directly in his lap. That's my first question. Has he been contacted and made aware and has accepted and is willing to proceed with the property renovations that need to be just restored to how they were before? just in case you're wondering, the internal work and damage has been all taken care of by my insurance companies, but it's really the land that flows from my building, from my home, used to go right to the street. Now there's a ditch with rocks falling in, my oak trees, the roots are exposed. So all this is, I have just asked for the city to make sure that the contractor in question replaces my land and some of the trees. The rest has been taken care of by my insurance company. And my second question is just, has he been made aware of the situation? And if so, when would he be starting the repairs as needed? And I thank you, you know, it's a personal issue, but there may be other people that will be similarly affected by this, or maybe are, and my problem only started being noticed as the flooding in the basement a year and a half it took. And I know there's work being done on Mountain Street nearby, and God forbid something else like this happens. I think he has to be aware that his workers must be extremely judicious so that this event does not occur again to someone else. So I wanted to bring it up to the council. Thank you very much.
You have advised your insurance company you're making a claim?
Oh, that's all been done. The inside work, the first flooding occurred a year and a half after the September 2021 renovations.
Right.
So that was the first flooding. And at the time there had been a power failure. So initially they thought it was due to a power failure and my sump pump didn't work. 3 months later, the repairs were done, ready to receive new furniture in the basement. I walk into another foot of water, and now a master plumber was called. He's excellent, by the way. If anyone wants to know his name, I'll be happy to share that with you. He was excellent, and he found that, in fact, after doing one of those flexoscope views of the house around, and then excavating almost 6 feet deep around my home in parts, he found that the French drain had been in fact cut through, and therefore because of that, it took a year and a half before it showed up as a damage to my home. And then it took another year by the time everything settled, and so the last of it has just been now in May 2024 that anything has been resolved, that everything I hope is all resolved. But except for my land, just the land in the front and the trees that were destroyed, my 20-foot cedars that were destroyed. So that's it. Thank you very much for your
To
time.
answer your question, I don't have that information for you.
Mhm.
As I forward, you sent me
Yes.
the letter. I advised you that it was forwarded to Owen Falcaro, and also the Public Works was also advised, and they will look into it. Because I'm not.
Okay. Is there anyone I should be directing my questions
Well,
to?
right now it's in the hands of Owen Falcaro. If he has something to add to it, I mean, he'll.
Yeah, so I came across my desk a couple of weeks ago now. There was an official complaint number that was given to it. There's an official file that's open. When I saw it, I thought it was more about the second part you mentioned about the cedars and,
Yes, and the land.
Other vegetation. I didn't know the first part of the story, but I'll get up the file and I'll talk to my colleagues at Public Works and see what they know about it and see what we can do from both ends. But certainly it's been received, the complaint, and we know what it's about. And we'll
Yes. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
We have room for one more question, very short one, because it's 30 minutes has expired.
Mr. Mayor, I am short. It's a big joke.
In height or in speed?
Yes and yes. Sir, I went to visit a friend on Frizzle Road, and they've got 7 or 8 houses there where no one is drinking the water because it is so yellow. I've been asked by a number of people who live on Frizzle Road if I would consider doing their laundry because they do not even want laundry done. So perhaps someone could take a look into the water situation in that area. Thank you.
Well, the only thing I can say is we haven't received any complaints to my knowledge. If there has complaints, they will go to Public Works. There was, I don't know if there was work being done or connections being done. It can happen, but anyway, we'll check into it. It's noted, and we'll see if there's other complaints on Frizzle Road that are connected to the town water.
Thank you. They told me that today's day 6.
Pardon me?
They've told me today is day 6 where they're not consuming the water and they're not doing laundry.
You got
Okay.
addresses or specific addresses?
I will ask them permission to give you the specific address,
Okay, let's see.
okay?
Yeah, that would help a lot, thank you.